Vicky, is this also okay? I'm just trying a different mic. Yeah, Deepthi, can you hear me?
Yes, Banteji.
I'm just checking if this mic is okay.
It is.
Yeah, okay, very good.
We'll start in next 2-3 minutes.
Namaste to everybody and greetings on Pavarana Day.
Namaste, sir, and greetings to you as well. Greetings everyone and thank you for joining us today. सभी का हार्दिक अभिनंदन और आज आपने ज्वाइन किया इसके लिए आभार भी। आज पवर्णा दिवस है। पवर्णा दिवस का अर्थ है कि वास जो है 3 महीने का वर्षावास वो खत्म हुआ है। आज शरद पूर्णिमा का दिवस है और इसका अर्थ ये है कि जो भिक्षु हैं भिक्षुणियां हैं जो पिछले 3 महीने से वर्षावास के काल में एक ही स्थान पर रह रहे थे, अब वो उस अवस्था से बाहर निकलेंगे और इस ओकेजन को काफी सेलिब्रेट किया जाता है। Those of you who joined us today, as you might know, today is the last day of the Vasa for 2022. This occasion is observed as the Pavarana Day. It lands on the day of the full moon of the 3rd month of the Vas. On this occasion, we will have Venerable Ajahn Kevali join us online on Zoom from Thailand, where he lives. A short introduction of Venerable Ajahn Kevali. I also want to call out actually that he will be joining us a couple of minutes later into the session. And meanwhile, we have Bhante Mahapanyo with us. So to talk a little bit about Venerable Ajahn Kevali. Venerable Ajahn Kevali was ordained in 1998 by Venerable Lungpo Liam, and he has been the abbot of the International Monastery Pavarana Ceremony since 2007. He is the patron of Aranya Vihar Trust, the committee that has organized today's program. We are in India and he is the patron for this trust. He will be giving us a desna on the meaning and importance of the Pavarana Day or the Pavarana Ceremony. कुछ मिनटों के बाद हमारे साथ वेनरेबल अजान केवली होंगे जो कि वतपा नानाचार थाईलैंड की इंटरनेशनल मॉनेस्ट्री में एबट हैं। वो 1998 के अंदर पूर्ण भिक्षु उनका बने थे और लुंगपोर लियम ने उनको भिक्षु की उपासना दी थी। वो 2007 से इंटरनेशनल थाई मॉनेस्ट्री के एबट हैं और वो अरण्य विहार ट्रस्ट के पेट्रन हैं। क्योंकि वो एक मंक एबट हैं तो वो काफी बिजी भी हैं इस समय, क्योंकि जो सेक्लूजन का पीरियड था वो खत्म हो रहा है और एक तरीके से सोशलाइजेशन का पीरियड स्टार्ट हो रहा है। थोड़ी देर में वो ज्वाइन करेंगे। तब तक हमारे साथ आप देख रहे हैं स्क्रीन पे ये धम्माराम सिटी सेंटर न्यू दिल्ली के अंदर एक मेडिटेशन हॉल है जहाँ पे वेनरेबल महापन्यो हमारे साथ हैं। वेनरेबल महापन्यो का ये 3रा वर्षावास अभी पूर्ण हुआ है। So friends, on spotlight you have the Dhammaram City Center where we have Venerable Mahapanyo, who has been ordained since the last 3 years. He's just completed his 3rd Vasa, and Venerable Ajahn Kevali has nominated him to lead the opening chanting and Paritta chanting before he joins. So I will pass it on to Venerable Mahapanyo.
Good, Deepti, thank you. So जैसा दीप्ति ने बताया, हमारे जो आचार्य हैं अजान केवली, उन्होंने ये सजेस्ट किया है कि जो हम ट्रेडिशनल कुछ चैंटिंग्स करते हैं उसको हम अपनी शाम उससे शुरू करें और फिर वो हमें ज्वाइन करेंगे। और हमने अजान केवली को रिक्वेस्ट किया है कि जो आज का दिवस है उसका जो सिग्निफिकेंस है ना केवल भिक्षुओं के लिए लेकिन हम सभी के लिए जो भगवान बुद्ध की टीचिंग्स फॉलो करते हैं, हम सबको उस पर थोड़ा एक टॉक दें, उस पर एनलाइटन करें। तो उससे पहले अब हम जो हमारी ट्रेडिशनल चैंटिंग्स हैं वो करेंगे और हमारी कोशिश ये है कि हम पाली और हिंदी दोनों में करें। सो कुछ चैंटिंग्स मैं हिंदी में करूँगा और उसके बाद हम पाली और हिंदी का मिक्स करेंगे। सो ओपनिंग चैंटिंग आप लोगों में जिनके पास बुक्स हैं पेज नंबर 17 पर है। ये हमारी ट्रेडिशनल इवनिंग चैंटिंग है जो थाई ट्रेडिशन है उसमें, और उसका हम हिंदी वर्जन करने वाले हैं। वे जो हैं अरहंत भगवान सम्यक संबुद्ध, भगवान के द्वारा अच्छी तरह समझाया गया धर्म, धर्म के मार्ग को अच्छी तरह प्रतिपादित करने वाले भगवान के श्रावक संघ, उन भगवान बुद्ध, धर्म और संघ की हम यथोचित सत्कार से पूजा करते हैं। हमारा सौभाग्य कि भगवान को महान निर्वाण की प्राप्ति के बाद भी आगे आने वाली पीढ़ी पर अनुकंपा थी। आदर पूर्वक दी गई ये तुच्छ भेंट कृपया स्वीकार करें। हमारे दीर्घकालिक हित और सुख के लिए अरहंत भगवान सम्यक संबुद्ध, उन भगवान बुद्ध का मैं अभिवादन करता हूँ। भगवान के द्वारा अच्छी तरह समझाया गया धर्म, उस धर्म को मैं नमन करता हूँ। भगवान के श्रावक संघ, जिन्होंने मार्ग को अच्छी तरह प्रतिपादित किया, उस संघ को मैं नमन करता हूँ। नेक्स्ट पेज। आए हम भगवान बुद्ध की प्रारंभिक वंदना करें। नमस्कार उन्हें जो हैं अरहंत भगवान सम्यक संबुद्ध। नमस्कार उन्हें जो हैं अरहंत भगवान सम्यक संबुद्ध। नमस्कार उन्हें जो हैं अरहंत भगवान सम्यक संबुद्ध। अब हम पेज 38 पर जो ओवादा पाटिमोख है, जो कि एक तरीके से भगवान बुद्ध की टीचिंग्स की एक समरी समझी जाती है, अब हम उसको करेंगे पाली और हिंदी में। अन्नमयं ओवाद पाटिमोख गाथायो भनामसे। सब पाप स अकरणं कुशलस उपसंपदा। सच्चित्त परियोदपनं एतं बुद्धान शासनं। सभी प्रकार के पापों को न करना, कुशल कार्यों का संपादन करना, अपने चित्त को परिशुद्ध करना, यह सभी बुद्धों की शिक्षा है। खन्ति परमं तपोतितिक्षा निब्बानं परमं वदन्ति बुद्धा। नहि पवज्जतो परोपघाती समनो होति परं विहेतयन्तो। धैर्य एवं शांति ही परम तप है। भगवान बुद्ध कहते हैं निर्वाण ही श्रेष्ठ है। सच्चा प्रवर्जित दूसरों को कष्ट नहीं पहुंचाता, न कोई श्रमण दूसरों को परेशान करता है। अनुपवादो अनुपघातो पातिमोक्षे च संवरो। मतन्युता च भक्तस्मिन् पंतं च शयनासनं। अधिचित्ते च आयोगो एतं बुद्धान शासनं। न किसी का अपमान, न किसी को घायल करना, पतिमोक्ष का पालन करना, भोजन की उचित मात्रा का ज्ञान, एकांत में रहना एवं शयन, उच्च कोटि के चित्त की प्रति श्रद्धा, यह सभी बुद्धों की शिक्षा है। अब हम जो हमारे ट्रेडिशनल प्रोटेक्शन चैंट्स हैं, जिनको हम परित्त कहते हैं, वो करेंगे। ये पेज 147 पर है और उसमें से हमने 3 चैंट्स सिलेक्ट किए हैं आज शाम के लिए, तो हम इनको करेंगे। और आप में से जो लोग चाहें, आप लोग म्यूट हैं, इफ़ यू लाइक यू वेलकम टू जॉइन मी इन द चैंटिंग। हम ये समझते हैं कि जब इन चैंट्स को हम श्रद्धा से और अपने मन की गहराई से करते हैं, तो जो इसमें हम कामना करते हैं जो इसके सच की जो पावर है, शक्ति है, उससे वो जो हम इंटेंशन बना रहे हैं वो इंटेंशन सामने आती है, वो इंटेंशन एक तरीके से फ्रैक्टिफाई होती है। सो माय एनकरेजमेंट इज़, जैसे हमारे टीचर्स हमें सिखाते हैं कि हम परित्र शुरू करने से पहले वी कलेक्ट आवरसेल्व्स, कलेक्ट आवर माइंड्स and try and make a strong intention for these aspirations to be fructified. मैं पहले पूरा पाली करूंगा, उसके बाद उसका हिंदी ट्रांसलेशन करूंगा। हरित्वानमेतं समेता भदन्ता अविकितचित्ता परितं भणन्तु साग्गे कामे च रूपे गिरिशिखरतटे चन्तलिखे विमाने दीपे रथे च गामे तरुवनगहने गेहवत्थुं हि खेते भूम्मा चयन्तु देवा जलथलविस्मे यक्षगन्धर्वनागा तिष्ठन्ता सन्ति केयं मुनिवरवचनं साधवो मे शृण्वन्तु धम्मसवनकालो अयं भदन्ता धम्मसवनकालो अयं भदन्ता धम्मसवनकालो अयं भदन्ता। सभी भदंत मेत्ता भाव को सर्वत्र फैलाकर शांत चित्त से परित्तों का पाठ करें। विषय भोग और रूप के स्वर्गों, पर्वतों के शिखरों, ढालों और आकाश में बने महलों में रहने वाले, द्वीपों, देशों और नगरों के निवासी, उपवन, वन और घने जंगलों में रहने वाले, घरों और खेतों के आसपास रहने वाले और धरती में आए देवता, जल, थल और वीरानों में रहने वाले, यक्ष, गंधर्व और नाग देवता, वे सब आएं और पास बैठ श्रेष्ठ मुनि बुद्ध के वचनों का पाठ करते हुए मुझे मुदित हो सुने। भदन्त्य धम्म को सुनने का समय है, भदन्त्य धम्म को सुनने का समय है, भदन्त यह धम्म को सुनने का समय है। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स। नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स। बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि, धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि, संघं शरणं गच्छामि, द्वितीयंपि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि, द्वितीयंपि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि, द्वितीयंपि संघं शरणं गच्छामि, ततियम्पि बुद्धं शरणं गच्छामि ततियम्पि धम्मं शरणं गच्छामि ततियम्पि संघं शरणं गच्छामि यो चक्षुमामोहमलापकथो सामं वबुद्धो सुगतो विमुक्तो मारसपासा विनिमोचयन्तो पापे सिखेमं जनतं विनयं बुद्धं वरं तं शिरसा नमामि लोकसनाथं च विनायकं च तं तेजसा तेजसिद्धिहोतु सावन्तराय च विनाशमेन्तु धम्मो धजो यो वियतस्य सत्तु धस्येसि लोकस्य विशुद्धिमग्गं नियानिको धम्मधरस्य धारी सातावहो सन्ति करो सुचिन्नो धम्मं वरं तं शिरसा नमामि मोहपदालं उपसन्तदाहं तं तेजसा तेजसिद्धिहोतु सावन्तराय च विनाशमेन्तु सधम्मसेना सुगतानुगो यो लोकस्य पापोपकिलेशजेथा सन्तो स्वयं सन्ति नियोजको च स्वाख्यातधम्मं विदितं करोति संघं वरं तं शिरसा नमामि बुद्धानुबुद्धं समशीलदिट्ठिं तं तेजसा तेजसिद्धिहोतु सावन्तराय च विनाशमेन्तु उन ज्ञान चक्षुयुक्त मोह के मल से निवृत्त अपने ज्ञान से बुद्धत्व प्राप्त सुगत और विमुक्त मार के बंधन से मुक्त करने वाले मनुष्यों को पापों से सुरक्षा की ओर ले जाने वाले श्रेष्ठ बुद्ध को मैं सिर झुकाकर प्रणाम करता हूँ। जगत को शरण देने वाले नायक उनके तेज से आप जीत और सफलता प्राप्त करें और सभी विपत्तियों का अंत हो। उन शास्ता का धम्म ध्वज की तरह विश्व को विशुद्धि का मार्ग दिखाता है। लोकों से बाहर ले जाने वाला धर्मधरों का रक्षक ठीक अभ्यास करने पर सुख और शांति प्रदान करता है। उस श्रेष्ठ धम्म को मैं सिर झुकाकर नमन करता हूँ। जो मोह का भेदन और ताप को शांत करता है, उसके तेज से आप जीत और सफलता प्राप्त करें और सभी विपत्तियों का अंत हो। सधर्म की सेना जो सुगत का अनुसरण करती है, विश्व के पाप और क्लेशों पर विजय करती है। स्वतः शांत यह शांति की संयोजक है, ठीक से समझाए गए धम्म को बताती है। उस श्रेष्ठ संघ को मैं सिर झुकाकर नमन करता हूँ, जो बुद्ध के अनुयायी, शीलवान और सम्यक दृष्टि हैं। उनके तेज से आप सभी जीत और सफलता प्राप्त करें और सभी विपत्तियों का अंत हो। हम देवता उज्जवयन गाथा करेंगे, पेज 198। दुःखापत्ता च निर्दुःखा, भयापत्ता च निर्भया, शोकपत्ता च निःशोका, होन्तु सर्वेऽपि पाणिनो एतावता च अम्हेहि सबथं पुण्यसम्पदं। सर्वे देवानुमोदन्तु सर्वसम्पत्तिसिद्धिया, दानं ददन्तु श्रद्धाया, शीलं रक्षन्तु सर्वदा, भावनाभिरता होन्तु गच्छन्तु देवता गता। सर्वे बुद्धा बलवत्ता पच्चैकानं च यं बलं, अर्हन्तानं च तेजेन रक्षं बन्धामि सर्वसो। दुख से घिरे दुख से दूर हों, भय से घिरे भय से मुक्त हों, सभी शोक संतप्त प्राणी शोक से मुक्त हों। आज तक हमारे द्वारा पुण्यों की अर्जित संपदा का सभी देव अनुमोदन करें, जिससे सबकी प्रसन्नता बढ़े। श्रद्धा से दान दें, अपने शील सर्वदा सुरक्षित रखें, साधना में अभिरत रहें, ताकि देवलोक में पुनर्जन्म हो। सभी बुद्धों के बल से एवं प्रत्येक बुद्धों का जो बल है, एवं अरहंतों के तेज से मैं हर प्रकार से सुरक्षा निश्चित करता हूँ। और आखिर में हम जय परित से क्लोज करेंगे, पेज 202। ये हम टिपिकली किसी भी ऑस्पिशियस काम को करने से पहले करते हैं या उसके एंड में। महाकारुणिको नाथो हिताय सर्वपाणिनं, पुरेत्वा पारमी सर्वपत्तो सम्बुद्धिं उत्तमं। एतेन सच्चवाज्येन होतु ते जयमङ्गलं, जयन्तो बोधियामूले साख्यानं नन्दिवर्धनो। एवं त्वं विजयो हि जय सुजय मङ्गले, अपराजितपल्लङ्के शीसे पृथ्वी पोखरे, अभिषेके सर्वबुद्धानां आगपतोपमोदति। सुनखतं सुमङ्गलं सुप्रभातं सुहुठितं, सुखनो सुमुहूर्तो च सुइत्थं ब्रह्मचारी। सुप्रदक्षिणं कायकम्मं वाचाकम्मं प्रदक्षिणं मनोकम्मं। प्रणिधिते प्रदक्षिणानि कृत्वा न लभन्ते प्रदक्षिणे। महान कारुणिक भगवान बुद्ध ने सभी प्राणियों के हित के लिए सभी पारमिताएं पूरी कर संबोधि प्राप्त की। इस सत्य वचन के प्रभाव से तुम्हारी जय हो, मंगल हो। बोधि वृक्ष के नीचे विजेता हुए शाक्यों की प्रसन्नता को बढ़ाने वाले तुम भी इसी प्रकार विजयी हो, तुम्हारी जय हो, मंगल हो। अपराजित आसन में पृथ्वी रूपी कमल पत्र के शीर्ष पर बैठे सभी बुद्धों के द्वारा प्रतिष्ठित वे सबसे महान संबोधि प्राप्त कर प्रमुदित हुए। शुभ नक्षत्र हैं वे, शुभ मंगल, शुभ प्रभात, शुभ आहुति, शुभ क्षण, शुभ मुहूर्त, ब्रह्मचारियों को श्रेष्ठ दान, जो है सम्यक काया कर्म, सम्यक वाचिक कर्म, सम्यक मनोकर्म, आपके सम्यक संकल्प, ऐसे सम्यक कर्म करके आपको सम्यक लक्ष्य प्राप्त होते हैं। सो हम अब कुछ देर जब तक अजान केवली हमें ज्वाइन करते हैं हम तब तक शांत बैठ सकते हैं। देयर इज अजान केवली। सो दीप्ति, कैन आई हैंड ओवर टू यू एंड यू कैन पे रिस्पेक्ट्स फर्स्ट एंड देन कैरी ऑन।
Namaste Ajahn, welcome to you.
Good evening. Nice to see you all. Many people gathered.
Ajahn, we are very pleased to see you, and we'd like to pay our respects by bowing 3 times. So everyone, let's join in bowing 3 times to Venerable Ajahn Kevali. First bow. Second bow. And third bow. Ajahn, before you had joined, we gave a brief introduction about yourself to the people who've joined us. There are people joining from India as well as outside. And we also said that Ajahn would be joining us in a couple of minutes while Bhante Mahapanyaji was doing the Paritta chantings.
Very good.
Now we would, Ajahn, make a formal request for Dhamma Desna, and then it would be over to you for explaining us the meaning and importance of the Pavarana Day.
Very good. Please go ahead. Very nice.
I'm inviting Nikhil Mishra from Aranya Vihar Trust to please make the formal request for Dhamma Desna.
Thank you. So let us once again pay our respect to Ajahn by bowing down 3 times. Then I will make the request, and after the request, we will again bow down 3 times. So pranam, pranam, pranam. Brahma cha lokadhipati sahampati Katanjali andhivarang ayachat Santid sattaparakjatika Dese tu dhammamang anukampimang pajang. Pranam. Pranam. Pranam.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Buddhang Dhammang Sanghang Namasami Ito Parang Sakajang Dhammo Sotapoti. Good evening, all of you from the Aranya Vihara Trust, friends in the Dhamma, and in many places, I believe. Nice to be able to say a few words for myself, for you, to share some Dhamma, because today is actually quite a special day. In fact, we are maybe a little bit early, but I understand that the full moon falls on today in India, and in Thailand we have the full moon as per definition by tomorrow. And the full moon day, this full moon day, marks the ending of the Vasa, the rains retreat, or in Thai we say the Pansa. And the Sangha in all kinds of monasteries have spent 3 months together without major travels and being, say, confined to the place and being dedicated to some practices that they usually wouldn't undertake in a very, say, concise way, where the practice can be easily brought to a certain conclusion. 3 months is not too long, it's not too short, it's a decent chunk of time. And in our main monastery here, Wat Bananachat, or in the mother monastery, Wat Nongpapong, then the Sangha usually grows together quite a little bit in this period. Likewise, of course, like we have to find similar time frames for our own group, like the Aranya Vihara Trust, Daily Dhammarama, or future Sangharama, where we can have like a period of like making communal effort and sharing the Dhamma and practicing together. And then at some points, then obviously we need to also depart and leave and do other business. And in the lay life, obviously there's like many duties waiting for everyone. After having taken some retreat time off, then we have to go back to the daily life out in the world with all kinds of people that aren't possibly interested in the practice. So we need to find a time frame where we easily can transmit or like take one step from one situation to the other, and transfer was the word, transfer our practice to other situations. So at the time of the Buddha, this must have been quite similar, that after the confinement in the rains retreats, the monks were then able to walk across the countryside again and see other places, see other teachers, and practice in locations, some remote places, maybe in some other monasteries. And the Buddha was very well aware that the group that had spent the rains retreat together will disperse. And on the evening before the gates are open, then there is what we call the Pavarana Ceremony. And Pavarana means invitation. And it is like a bit of a situation that we can transfer to many other situations in our life, is when there's a change that we want to make a clear gesture of not having any lingering feelings of disappointment or suspicion or unwholesome, say, associations with the situation that lies behind us. And obviously with the people that we have spent time with. And in the bigger framework, we can say like, this is also very important for the whole chunk of one's life, that one makes a gesture to other people to invite them to give feedback, which is what the Pavarana is about, so that one doesn't carry around any suspicion or any unwholesome thoughts, and can maybe just simply put things to the side and clarify whatever was not correct. So usually every fortnight, the monks would recite the Patimokkha, the monks' rules, and confess their offenses. And on this full moon day at the end of the rains retreat, similarly, we would confess our offenses, and then, which is done in pairs, and it's an intimate thing, privately opening up to another monk about whatever one feels one needs to disclose and whatever one is aware of. Breach of sila, breach of conduct, or many times also like almost breaches that one isn't quite sure, and brings them up and talks in one's own language about it a little bit, and then goes through the ritual. So this would be done every fortnight anyway, and confession that comes from the heart of every single monk. And then eventually then comes the determination to be restrained in the future. So that idea of self-reflection is there already in our Sangha, that we always kind of like bring up the things that have been not very correct to another bhikkhu. And it can be done as soon as things arise. We can seek out anybody and then confess or open up to this other bhikkhu and get a big burden off our chest, and then continue with our life in a normal, neutral way again, because most of the offenses are actually not so great that they require major punitive measures. There's only a handful or two handful, and there's of course the very heavy offenses which are not curable, like say, for example, sexual intercourse or stealing, or like killing and killing a human being, and then the false claims, like claims of attainments that one hasn't achieved. So generally there's a sense of being able to reset oneself with one's feeling of morality and purity, to come back to a neutral ground through confession already in the Sangha. And on this last day of the rains retreat, the Buddha then replaced this normal recitation of the monks' rules and revision of sila by oneself to an opening up to the other monks by saying, look, I invite you to tell me whatever you have seen, heard, or suspected about my conduct. Please be so kind. Out of kindness, let me know. And then possibly there is feedback, possibly there is a dialogue, or there is some kind of statement or so. But these days in the present Sangha that I know, mostly we go through a ceremony and use the ceremony as a symbol of generally being open towards feedback, open towards criticism. So the word Pavarana is an opening towards criticism by other people. And this is irrespective of the age in the Sangha, irrespective of the role in the Sangha. Everyone goes through this invitation. And in our international monastery, many times we have the feeling we should have a real Pavarana where we actually do say things to each other and not just do the Pali formula and make a, say, ritual out of it, thinking that at the time of the Buddha, this most likely was a live ceremony, a live, say, meeting where people were actually talking in their own language about what they have seen, heard, or suspected. And the spirit of it is the same. Through this ritual that we do, we have that as a topic on this in this period, the period of parting ways, of leaving, and then before that, inviting others to say, look, was there anything that you felt uneasy about by body, speech, and mind, even if you only suspected it? Please let me know. And then I can answer, and then we can find a way and settle things, rather than pretending everything was all right and just leaving, and possibly giving grounds to rumors, further stories proliferating or so. This could easily happen if one didn't make this gesture. So in practical monastic life, we actually don't do this in the ceremony, but we give ourselves time around this period to actually address each other. And the emphasis also is very much on the personal attitude towards opening up. It means like being easy to speak to, easy to admonish, to be admonished, being somebody who is accessible, somebody who's kind enough to hear feedback. And this is a very, very modern thing, I believe, that the Buddha already had in his Sangha, to say even the abbot, even the younger monks, everybody, older, young, do need this quality to be easy to address. And not so much is it really the case that that actually people take advantage of this, but it's much more the feeling of openness and friendship. And we have to keep in mind that for the 3 months of the Rains Retreat, one has grown together and one has lived together and shared a lot of things already. So as we know, there's many dhammas that come up when one practices together, and many are very beautiful qualities. And usually there isn't much really big issues, or in the spirit of the Pavarana, everybody opens up and feels like accessible. And then the actual issues aren't so much the point. It's more the feeling of sharing and feeling of like so good and bad, to be humble and be able to accept other people's views. So it's a very important mindset, to have the mindset of invitation for other people to tell one what they think, what they heard, or what they've seen, or what they have suspected. And the tendency, particularly in a highly idealistic Western Sangha, is many times thinking, okay, then I've got the chance now to tell so-and-so what I really think, which is true. But like actually, when one looks at the Pavarana ceremony, it actually starts with oneself. It doesn't so much say, or doesn't really say at all, that now is your chance to criticize somebody else. It actually emphasized now is this chance that you can invite criticism. And that's a very different mindset. So with this kind of like semi-righteous way of going through life that we have in a modern world, with lots of like programs that we pursue, projects and proofs about what is right and wrong, then the tendency is obviously to say, now is my time, I can actually lodge my criticism. Of course that's true, but the spirit of Pavarana starts with oneself, saying, just like I would like to criticize somebody else, maybe I should open up and say, others can criticize myself as well, and be somebody who is easily to talk to, not somebody who is so kind of like conceited that he dishes out his own opinions, that the others feel opinionated and intimidated, then basically nobody will address one. So to come back to oneself and say, look, this starts from my heart. I put this out. Like if there's anything you'd like to let me know before we part, before we go separate ways, please, you're welcome. And to say that with a real open heart. So this is a very significant emphasis that the Buddha gave. Suspending, or like suspending the patimokkha for one fortnight and doing the Pavarana ceremony instead. It's quite a very, very significant contribution to the culture in the monastery. So for ourselves, like living out in the world, we don't have then obviously this time that we have been closely knitted together, living and practicing together in the same way as the monks. But on the other hand, we also can make efforts in any given time to say, look, I know that to be easy to admonish, to be easy to be corrected is a quality that the Buddha praised. So I'll make a verbal effort to tell other people, look, if you think anything I did wasn't quite okay, please let me know. And give the Pavarana, the invitation, not only on the specific calendar day, which may even vary from country to country, but like have it as a Dhamma in the heart. And this is in the Mangala Sutta when we think, like, for example, Kanti Sovaja Satta, to be patient and easy to talk to be a good listener, to be a good counselor. These are very beautiful qualities of a friend in the Dhamma. So to be able to use speech in a way that is at the right time, that is factual, that is gentle, and that is like purposeful or aiming at some good purpose, and then also to be spoken with loving kindness and compassion. So this is something when one has made a commitment, for example, for a retreat together, or is in the same group of practitioners, or has spent the vasa together like the monks, then there is a common ground of trust. And I believe that the Buddha actually implied this, like Pavarana is a sign of trust. I can open up to somebody else because I've practiced sila, samadhi, and panya together with this person. So at the end of a chunk of practice, I can trust and make myself vulnerable and ask somebody else, look, is there anything that's not so good about myself? And but it does need that cushion of being in a trustworthy environment. So how far you in your situation can say transfer this to your place of work or to your family or to the business that you have to work with, then is up to your own level of how much you feel there is trust. So this is important, that we don't think like we have to invite the whole world all the time for criticism, but to rely on that sense of having same level of sila, having a same commitment to, for example, truthfulness, and to be able to share things in the Dhamma with similar like-minded people. Then it is natural and comes almost automatically that one is so open that one says, okay, if there's anything you'd like to say, please let me know. And one last little say pointer, it's also very much bound up with the general practice in our tradition to many times ask for forgiveness if one has done something wrong. For example, when we greet each other after not having seen each other for a while, at the beginning of the vasa, for example, we pay respects, and the junior monks humbly say, look, whatever actions I may have done by body, speech, and mind, may you not hold them against us, so that there won't be any unwholesome karma. And the senior monk then says, yes, I forgive you, and may you also forgive me. And then basically they rejoice and can carry on with their practice. At the end of a period, for us may mean like at the end of a retreat, or at the end of a trip, or at the end of some, say, joint effort in the practice. Or it can mean also at the end of the year, for example, or like on one's birthday. So we can be a bit creative with that. But definitely it's very important that the whole idea of not creating unwholesome proliferations or karmic effects when one departs. So have that spirit of inviting for feedback before one parts ways, and ultimately very beautiful way if one is in a very disabled, sick state and is going to pass away, to have that openness of mind and that clarity and trust that one can actually say, invite anything that wasn't good, ask for forgiveness, and make a clear slate or clarify any of the possible pending issues, so that one doesn't create much more karma. So this is my offering of the explanation of the Pavarana Day. Invite other people to give feedback, to say it in a modern idiom. So I offer that for reflection. I didn't watch the clock, but I believe it's probably about 20 minutes, and you might have some questions still.
Sadhu, 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 Ajahn. And I have to make this observation that every time you've joined us, you've always managed things within the nick of time. So bang on time as we had planned. So this is the time when we can invite, open the forum for questions. So anybody who has questions, please feel free to raise your virtual hand and then we'll invite you. I know one person did that a couple of minutes ago. So you're very welcome to raise your virtual hand. We'll invite you and you can directly ask the question to Ajahn.
Maybe there aren't so many questions because we've just met on a very nice occasion. There was plenty of like Dhamma in the air, and maybe we're all also not so much into theoretical questions. But if there's any concern or anything like general topic, you're welcome just to say something that is on your mind.
So John, maybe I could ask this question actually, in relation to this topic. You did mention that in the modern times, the idea of upward feedback, I'm using that term from actually my corporate life, where we provide leadership feedback, upward feedback to our seniors. And that is getting formalized, where a leader actually issues surveys to their juniors and invite the feedback. And I would say that's still a form of a ritual. And I was reflecting whether having a ritual actually sustains a practice. How do you see that?
Yes, this is generally like, it depends on how much people are actually dedicated to the ritual. Say, if it's just a matter of form or an obligation, for example, like it's very popular to have ratings these days on all kinds of like anonymous places like websites or maybe even personal and writing comments. So it depends a bit on the situation, how much one is used to kind of filling such a form with a real contents, or whether it's just like about the, say, grades or the promotions or the, say, in a worldly sense, popularity. What I believe what is aimed in the Pavarana ceremony is more from the spirit and for inviting, say, that there isn't what we call bad karma, like in that sense of like suspecting, spinning on stories, making up things that possibly aren't true. It's not so much about like optimizing the result of one's work or so. Of course, that's also a side effect, as so much with many of the Buddhist concepts, like, for example, mindfulness, we can do in a worldly way and be very mindful in how we, say, work at the stock market, but whether that brings us to Nibbana is a different story. Like, so the aim in the Buddha Sasana is so much letting go and say deflating the sense of entitlement and the sense of position, and we have so much attachments in many ways. So in this way, I believe, like when we're in a spiritual community and we do this, it has a different connotation than when we're in the world, because the aim outside in the world many times is maybe to optimize the performance and or optimize the functionality of the group or so, which obviously isn't wrong in many ways, but it's a fine line between the when this becomes say, kind of a worldly pursuit, or when it becomes like something that has to deal with, for example, the climate in a company or in a work group, where people need to be able to be relate to their boss in a human way, and they need to be heard in a way that comes from, I can't say from heart to heart, that doesn't work in the business world, but like from a sincere feeling of trust. And so it depends a bit on how this this is implemented in what spirit. But it's good to know really that the Buddha actually, in the framework of the Sangha, where there is like possible suspicion that like people at the top of the line, they get like disconnected from the bottom, and they have possibly privileges, the better seat, the better food and whatnot, and then start getting corrupted with that. But there's also in the ceremony of that the leader, so to say, just like everybody else, opens up and say, look, is there anything that you're not pleased with? And gives the opportunity. So in that sense of a good climate in a work situation, I think then that is maybe similar. We can say, yeah, the Buddha had that as well. Reduce the sense of like authoritarian leadership and become like a wise friend, a wise spiritual companion.
Thank you for that, Ajahn. And in the same spirit, if you could also offer some of your thoughts around, how do we take it to families? I think as lay people, these are the kinds of questions or practices we might want to adopt. So yes. How could we do that?
Yeah, like it's an interesting question because obviously sometimes like parents do have a lot of responsibility and pressure in looking after the children, or like particularly in the teenage days. I think it can be quite stressful, and the goodwill of the parents overrides obviously the many times maybe strong say directives they have to give to the kids in that sense. But the feeling of like trust and authenticity comes to my mind when thinking about how to relate to each other in a family. And then this giving the opportunity to also be heard, like for the children or for the other perspective of the people one lives together with, or one's husband or wife. Basically, this is very, very obviously very important that we like meet the other person and hear the other person and make a gesture of saying, look, if there's anything you feel uneasy, please do let me know. And to renew that as a contract, or like as a culture is maybe the better word. And I believe like sometimes it's like intuitively there, but many times maybe, particularly when times are rough and families are under stress and there's business, or there's separation over time, that one actually verbalizes it, and at the same time say trust that the other person will not just unload things, but it comes up in a constructive, good way. But so from children to parents, parents to children, I think the general feeling is, like there may be certain areas that are reserved where the parents do need to give directives, and possibly the child might not understand it, but their gesture still makes a huge difference. If one says like, I want to hear how you feel, and how do you feel about what I did, and so forth. And within equals partners, I think it's more like within Sangha, where we actually share a history and we share like a relationship together, and it's very good to renew, like say, even though it sounds a bit clumsy, but we can put it in our own words, renew that openness of like actually making a gesture of if you have anything that you don't feel comfortable or don't like about me or what I did, heard, or even if you just suspect it, oh, please let me know. If you only had let me know before, it's something that people many times say after a long argument. Why didn't you tell me before? I could have so easily changed. And so to keep that in mind and work proactively towards building up that open-mindedness, be someone open-hearted in that way.
Ajahn, people have warmed up to questions now, so
Okay.
there are more coming up on chat.
Mhm.
Thank you for your response to this one. There's a question from Renuka. She's asking that sometimes the mistakes are so that they are difficult to be forgiven. As a person who did mistakes and now unable to forgive even self, how can someone cope up in such situations?
Yes, sometimes these things take time, and it is very important that we maybe, in that sense of feeling hurt or so, like being treated unfair, and that we take our time for this, and that we fully experience this for ourselves first. And I believe that with so many things, if we have first fully experienced how it feels, then actually the step towards allowing others to take a role in that, or going out towards others, maybe becomes easier. I believe we can take our time to feel the disappointment and the possibly even humiliation first, and see how we can still feel strong being able to take this. And then I believe then the relationship can gradually heal, and we may be at some point ready to say let go of it. Because when we feel something that has already happened or is inadvertible, then basically we have to go inside. We have to go into our inner strength, and this then will help us to allow the outside forces to be adapted. I believe it takes time for oneself, and this imperative, you should, or why don't you, also this sometimes makes it very complicated to come to a true acceptance of one's feelings. And when one feels those things honestly, then maybe one also starts seeing how they are conditioned and how they came to be. And having the Dhamma in the heart altogether, we many times are looking for a way to let go or change things, but we sometimes aren't just ready. And I would say just let's be patient and work on ourselves first before we make the gesture to go to say I forgive you, or this is an honest working with the sometimes things are very severe and we feel very hurt by this, and then to take the time to feel the dukkha, feel the frustration. And with the context of the Dhamma, that we know things are changing, there's causes and conditions, we may at some point be really feeling ready to forgive, and then we can say things, and we can make a gesture, or it comes automatically already. And I would say, just say it takes time, and practice this authenticity towards oneself as well, and recognize I feel hurt, I feel mistreated, I feel humiliated. I cannot yet forgive, but put in the yet, and then just to live with it in a way where we don't judge yet, and we just simply experience. My understanding is that when we do this thoroughly and take our time, that we'll be able to find a way to direct ourselves in letting it go, and this will be able to say things to other people, saying, I have let go of it, I can forgive you, it doesn't matter. Life goes on, let's be friends again.
Ajahn, I know we are at the top of the hour. Do you have, would it be okay for us to ask one more question? There's one more question that is. Thank you. Actually, more are coming up, but I'll go with the first one. It says that Chirag is asking that how should one ensure when one is giving feedback, the motivation is the benefit of the other and not an outlet or expression of our own aversion?
Yeah. I would also say take some time, do it at the right time, and wait a moment. And this is really important. I think we can be more sure that it doesn't come on the out of, say, defilements or wrong motivation when we've carried it for a while, and then we'll be able to express it in the right way. So this is something I also need to work with, like not immediately to react, particularly when there's some trouble in the monastery business or so. Just take a deep in-breath or sleep a night over it. This is my main medicine. And sure enough, after having seen a little bit of a change of scene already, then we can be more sure that like our gut-like feeling when we reapproach the topic, that it comes from a sense of Dhamma. And this is really literally what I would recommend. Sleep over it. And also very practical, don't write emails. Look for the opportunity to meet rather than say kind of offloading in an email or whatever people use, tweet or I don't know. And the gut-like feeling of having stepped back for a while that comes on a fresh morning, for example, many times tells us with all the Dhamma that we have been practicing already, whether we're coming from a harmonious point or a point of anger, defilement, or possibly corrupting ourselves in our integrity and with righteous indignation or so. And this is like very, very important to wait a while and look for the right time and speak directly with the person, and also with the exercise of trying to think a little bit opposite of what one originally wanted to say. And so like maybe, could I also say something nice? Or could I also, and like what I wanted to kind of express, how will that actually sound in his or her ears after I've said it? So all this should not be rushed. And we're meditators, we can keep it with us for a while. We're able to hold these things for a while, and also, kind of direct our thoughts to general Dhamma, other topics, and then revisit the topic, and then we can see how it feels differently, and then be a bit more sure that we are not driven by like our personal, say, defilements or say unwholesome qualities. Stepping back.
May I ask another question, Ajahn?
Yes, one more.
Okay. So we'll consider this the last one. That's from Shweta. She says, Ajahn, sometimes people behave differently in a group, while privately their behavior is different. This happens in family and also at workplace. How to develop trust around such relationships, or how to handle oneself in such relationships while following Shila?
Yes. Okay, that's already one of the points is already in there, like following Shila. Basically being grounded in one's own sense of integrity or purity of intentions or purity of mind, we can say. So, and the other one is the panya factor, that we take the time to really reflect on the situation. And it's already good when we ask this kind of question, we're already aware of the problem that, people have so many different facets. Just like what I said, like after having slept over it, one, even as a single person, one has got a different mindset. So much more when we're in a group situation where there's basic instincts pulling at us, basically whatever, like social norms, conventions, or like the history, the karmic impulse of having had a relationship with somebody, possibly in a competitive way, or in a way that is easily like holding back too much. Just so we have to like use the wisdom faculty as well, and try to really really see through the situation. Like these are actually the dhammas of a true person, like the sappursa, knowing society, knowing the, like it's like knowing knowing the Dhamma, knowing oneself, knowing one's purposes, knowing the time and place, knowing moderation. That means like maybe being able to hold back a little bit, and then knowing the others, like and knowing society and the norms of it. This is like what is called the Sappurisa Dhamma. I found them very profound, and it means basically we have to be very say observant and careful, because like it's like what was said in the question, like people are different from situation to situation. Like say for example, if you take a bunch of male people in a football stadium or cricket stadium, maybe very different than when they're at the family table, and it's normal like that, and we just have to be wise enough to see that in time and have enough distance so that we allow ourselves to realize what's going on and not fall into the traps and generalizing or say stigmatizing even like through some other context or so. So this is like actually quite profound practice, to be able to see a person like in each situation as a new person, and in the present moment, in the present Dhamma, just like we try for ourselves, we also try to see, for example, our children or our partners as a new person with a heart that is like allowing them to be changing and not fixing them to a certain type or so. So this, of course, is a very profound practice, and we have to start somewhere. Again, I would take time and use like the wisdom faculty more than the just holding faculty in this case. The holding faculty maybe for the emotional response, but the wisdom faculty then when we've got time to meditate and when we've got time to say go be in a different situation, then wisely reflect on these things rather than impulse, acting on an impulse. If it all gets too much, then let's just do less and have more quality interactions where we can actually realize what's going on. That's also one of the dhammas that is very much praised, particularly in the Sangha, is the Dhamma of restraint. We don't have to do everything. We don't have to be in every situation. We don't have to answer every say comment on social media. We can just wait and leave them for a while. Go.
Thank you, Ajahn. This has been incredibly useful, I would say, for us to take in lay life, to be inspired from the Sangha about these very healthy practices thought of by the visionary Lord Buddha, and now we are
yes.
and the Sangha continues to follow that, so that lineage of practice continues and we can also learn from there. I will invite Nikhil again for the Anumodana.
Handamayan Dhammakataya Sadhukarang Dadamase Sadhu 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 Anumodami.
And I wish you a very good evening and a good Pavarana day, and the spirit of the Dhamma, that it may guide you well with wisdom and compassion and the serenity you need for that in a busy world with lots of dukkha. I wish you much good inner strength, and hope to see you again soon. And happy Org Pansa, as we say in Thai. Pansa is the Vasa, and Org means outside. Like this is for us like a major thing now, like having completed a period. And I wish you well. All the best.
Much gratitude, Ajahn. Much gratitude. We'll again, let's pay our respects to Venerable Ajahn. Bow. 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 Very grateful for your time, Ajahn, today. And
good. Hope to see you again soon. Namaste.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Shubharatri.
Thank you.
Shubharatri.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajahn.
Okay.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Thank